I just need a job. Do you know any openings? No. Big no no. Okay. People don't have time for that. Be very
Yeah.
specific at your ask. Be very, very specific at your ask. People are not willing to do their homework. People don't want to figure it out themselves. They don't want to
Yeah.
do the work. That is not the way to go about it. People are really kind enough to lend their hand, but you need to make it easier for them to help you. After one such follow up, he mentioned, I'm really impressed with your persistence. It was very early in the morning and we got on a call. But after 20 minutes, he said, like, actually, I'm super impressed with the skills and the persistence. So I wanted to give you a shout out on LinkedIn. And I didn't expect that at all. After he posted it, after a call, comments and DMs started flooding in. So just the day that I was thought, okay, oh my God, I am never gonna land the sales job that I want. Okay, people started DMing me with the job opportunities, and attended interviews, and I had so many job offers in my hand, and I had the privilege to choose the job offer that I wanted to go. So that's the story behind landing into tech sales.
Welcome back to the SDR Hire podcast. If you're new here, I'm your host, Stefan, and this is a place where you can learn from top producing salespeople what it's like actually working in tech sales. How do you break into tech? What do companies look for? How to get promoted and how to be successful in this world of tech sales. Today, we're talking with Akshaya Ravi. Akshaya is an amazing SDR with quite a story to tell. She managed to break into tech sales with not much experience behind her. But after a few gigs and after she had a personal break, she found the perfect opportunity and she set her eyes on the prize. And today, she's going to tell us the story of landing her role at Storylane, a US based startup. So, Akshaya, welcome to the SDR Hire podcast.
Thanks so much, Stefan, for the introduction, and thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of SDR High podcast, and I'm super excited about the chat today.
Yeah, same here. So I usually go through my guests' LinkedIn profiles, and I make sure that I'm familiar with their backgrounds. So I saw that you worked as an analyst at IBM, if I'm not mistaken, and then after that you kind of broke into tech sales. What was that actually like? That first encounter with tech sales, was it hard to get that role? Was it US based or was it India based? And like, how did that look like back then?
Okay, so when I started working at IBM straight out of college as a business analyst, and that I soon after like a few weeks I started hating the job. So I had to, I know the back in my mind that I had to switch jobs because this is not something that's meant for me. There's this data entry kind of role, and that most important thing is I didn't feel like I'm putting all of my skills into use. So that's the most important thing that was running on my mind. So I left the company after 6 months and began my job hunt for my first sales role. So that's when I discovered about the SaaS sales and everything. I thought I'll be more suited for sales one, and I started job hunt, and it went on for 3 months. But the first thing that I started doing is I knew a few companies that are very popular at that time because at that time I didn't have anyone who was mentoring me like what SaaS sales is, what's cold outreach, what's an ICP, what's KPIs. Nothing I knew it. So I started reaching out to every possible person in the company that I was targeting to, and I sent LinkedIn DMs to everyone and cold called them. So, and in this process, I met a person named Kaushal. He was working at Freshworks at that time, and I reached out to him and I kept on following up for weeks. He kept saying, "Hey, I'm right now super busy. Can you follow up with me like weeks after, maybe this week and this week?" And kept on going, and it kept following up with him. And right when I thought that I'm not going anywhere with this kind of process, so after one such follow up, he mentioned that, okay, I'm really impressed with your persistence. I want to get on a call with you. So, and then it was very early in the morning and we got on a call. But after 20 minutes, he said, like, actually, I'm super impressed with the skills and the persistence. So I wanted to give you a shout out on LinkedIn. And I didn't expect that at all. So, and however, after he posted it, after a call, comments and DMs started flooding in. So just the day that I was thought, okay, oh my God, I'm never gonna land the sales job that I want. Okay, people started DMing me with the job opportunities, and attended interviews, and I had so many job offers in my hand, and I had the privilege to choose the job offer that I wanted to go. So that's the story behind landing into tech sales. It's a very very unique story because a lot of people might say that, hey, I just did some course and blah blah cold call and all these things, but this is something that was very unique. I'm so privileged that this person helped me and he gave a shot at me, and this was the story behind it.
That is so impressive to hear. And it's actually, you know, someone might say you got lucky, right? I mean, somebody actually promoted you on LinkedIn, and that's how, however, it wasn't really luck. It was you making your own luck, which was, your effort created that opportunity. Now, how it actually happened doesn't really matter, but you were the one who created the opportunity for yourself through your persistency, and that's actually, uh, I think that's kind of your nature in general, because that's how you've been with me as well. I apologize again for taking a little bit too long to kind of put this podcast into motion, but um, it seems like that's kind of a trait of yours, and I appreciate that, and I really get inspired by the persistency like that. And so that's how you actually land. And by the way, how did you um, think of reaching out to people with that much persistency and even cold calling them? Because that isn't usually what people do when they go job hunting. What they usually do is they apply on a bunch of LinkedIn job ads. They like easy apply, whatever, and out of 100, a few of them get back to them, and then they maybe land one job. But you just went straight for it. You DM'd everybody in the company. You cold called people. How did you figure out to do those things? Like, did somebody tell you that's a good practice? Did you read somewhere, or was that just your intuition?
So when I was in college, I used LinkedIn to land the internships that I wanted. So I thought
Uh-huh.
LinkedIn might be a good option because when you are a fresher, when you don't have much experience, using this career website to apply to the jobs is not a very good option because obviously your resume is going to be overlooked. You need to do something that's very unique. So since I didn't know much about SaaS industry, I thought, okay, this is what I know. Let's put the things I know into the best use, put your best effort and land the things that I want. So just when I thought I need to tweak some strategies, but it gave me the opportunity. But I'm, although this hard work and everything that comes into play, but there's a little bit of luck that also came because that person actually is really really kind enough to give that shout out, because not a lot of people do that for people right now.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, that the job that you landed there, is that at Lead Squared?
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. Got it. All right. Okay. So you landed your first tech sales job. You probably spent a little bit of time there. I see that you had another not another similar, let's put it like that, tech sales job. Then you had a short break of, let's say, half a year. After which you did something that is very interesting. You landed a job as a founding SDR at a US based company called Storylane, right? Um, you coming from India, obviously, to me, that's very interesting. And this is something that we spoke about before we started the episode. Um, you landed a remote job, SDR job, with a US based company coming from India, which isn't really something that you hear people do every day. Not necessarily because you're coming from India, but in general, people coming from different parts of the world, they have a harder time landing those US based roles and opportunities and working with US based startups, which is sort of a good place to be in when it comes to the startup world. So let's kind of take it from the top. How did that actually happen? How did you figure the strategies? Can you tell us the story of landing that job with Sterling?
Oh, definitely. That's a very strategic outreach. This was a very random thing, but this one, just after working like few jobs, few gigs and part-time jobs, I learned what SaaS sales is. So I had like good connections in, so I knew what I needed to do to stand out. So that's a different part. I'll get into it. So
Hmm.
I took a break for 6 months to give my shot at MBA, which didn't actually work out. I fell ill, so I couldn't crack the exam at the B school that I wanted. So I thought, okay, I don't want to waste any more time on this. So I wanted to get back to work. And when I started applying, so I saw a lot of people giving this objection that, hey, you just had a break. So I wanted to take you as a fresher, so I don't want to consider you as an experienced one. So that was actually kind of bothering me. So that's when I knew that I should actually show them that I know things, how sales thing works. So I want to put myself as an expert in SaaS sales. I want to show them that how good I am with the sales and the creativity, so that they wouldn't, give put this objection, throw this objection
Mhm.
in front of my face. So I started scrolling through LinkedIn for hours and hours, and that's when I noticed Aligned. So you might have heard of it, Align. So it's a digital sales room platform. So they
Mhm.
had this marketing thing, which is giving the Align digital sales room for free for the job seekers, which is actually an amazing thing. So this were like people kept posting, like Deb from Align, Saad and Galaga from Align. They were posting about like you can use digital sales room for job seekers, and then okay, why not give it a try? So because nobody else is doing it, because it's going to take a lot of time to build that room and all, okay, I'll give it a shot, because I had a list of companies I had in my mind. So I'm very picky about the companies that I want to work, because the learning that I want to get, the kind of company that I want to work, what product am I going to sell, which region am I going to sell, whether it should be remote, hybrid, or it should be complete in office. So I had like clear things set out in mind. So I had the list of companies. So I laser focused on those companies and started building out digital sales room. So in a digital sales room, what you can do is you can put out a small note, hey, for the hiring people or hiring manager, say, let's say that you are the hiring manager. Hey Stefan, so I just built out this room just for you to get to know each other better throughout the interview process. So whenever people ask for a resume, I don't send the actual resume. I put my resume in this digital sales room along with all other information like my previous work experience, what I did in there. So when people appreciate you in the previous work, so I screenshotted it and I kept it in Notion. So I put that Notion link as well in that digital sales room. I put my article that I wrote. I also put the video, the Loom video that I created, 1 minute video pitch and everything that is especially created for that particular hiring manager. And I also, of course, the assignment, that whatever they are giving in. Let's say that they are giving the assignment of building an outreach strategy for that particular company. So that is also I'll attach it in the file section. So then I'll send it to you. And then this small touches like adding their brand color in the background, putting their photo in the top of the Align sales room, so that they feel like, okay, this is something personalized. Okay, this is very unique. So see, people started viewing it. Excuse me. People started viewing it for so long. I could actually track them. Okay, people are viewing it. They're forwarding it internally. So I could see that this is getting some response and people are liking it. So I started doing it for all the companies that I'm reaching out to, and I saw good response. People really liked it, liked the effort that put into it. So that's how I landed the role at Storylane. So I reached out to Nalin, and then he asked me to do an assignment on how to build an outbound motion strategy, because I'm practically the first hire. So I built out the assignment. We got on a call, and then after a week later, he said, "Hey, you're hired. Do you want to join next week?" Okay, that's it. That's it. Okay, fine.
Wow, that's really impressive. Let me recap. So, step number one, you were on a break. You tried to land into a business school. You fell ill. That kind of fell through, and you were like, all right, screw this. I need to get back in the saddle. I need to start working again. Awesome. Then you faced basically the objection, at least from your peers or maybe people who were kind of around you. By the way, you might have to kind of go back to that fresher like stage, which is something that you didn't want to accept. And by the way, I love that chip on the shoulder. Like that's something that makes people move and like mm, get to the place where they actually want to be. They don't really play by the rules, and so that's super impressive. I appreciate that. And so what you did, you wanted to find a way to stand out, and so you started using Align, which is a tool, a digital sales room that salespeople use to close the deals easier by providing their prospects with collateral in a single place rather than sending over tons of PDFs links, but you used it for your hiring process, right? And so you basically started doing it with one company. You had a bunch of companies on your list, but not necessarily any company. You have, and by the way, I'm going to ask you about that. Like, how do you actually choose companies to put on your list? But And so you started reaching out to these folks, to these companies, and eventually you landed. Was Storylane your first pick, or did you have to settle there, or what was it like?
Storyline was the favorite pick out of the list,
Oh
but
no, that's amazing.
I had this kind of anxiousness. Okay, maybe they won't hire me. That kind of insecurity that kicks in. But I was
Yeah,
like, I was relaxed, and I thought I'll do my best with the LinkedIn and with the reach out as well as with the assignment, so that I put all the efforts into it. But I didn't expect anything out of it. But you know, like, I'm here right now because of all these things. But I'm super glad things really
that's
happen. In a very unexpected ways.
that's so cool. That's so cool. And by the way, Align is a really amazing tool. A friend of the podcast, Deb, he is working there. I know he started working there some like 6 months ago. He's been on the podcast. I actually need to have him on again, but that is, it seems like a very, very useful tool. I've seen a few other tools of that sort, and it seems like a lot of people are actually picking up on the trend and starting using something like that, and it's obviously making a difference. But I'm curious about two things. One, how did you put initially those companies? Like you mentioned a few, let's say, filters, right, that you're using, but what does that actually look like? So, and what I'm trying to get here is, if I'm somebody considering a potential job, or switching jobs, or like breaking into that, whatever, how do I think, using your framework, how do I think about SDR opportunities, right? What are some of those criteria that you were looking for, in order to like find the right place for your career as an SDR?
Okay, sure. I'll share that. So this I had so many filters in mind. People started telling me that if you had so many filters, you wouldn't actually find a gig right now because people are not hiring that much as you think. So that was a kind of response, and that many filters I had. So
Right.
the first thing that I had is how large is their TAM, like the total addressable
Uh-huh.
market. So that is a very very important thing, because if you're selling into a very niched market, so the success rate, we will never know the success rate. So there will be you can't burn the list of prospects. You should be very very cautious about the every prospect that you reach out to. So you need to make sure that you have a large TAM to cover into, and whether the product is outbound ready. How easy is the product to use? Do you as a person really like using that product? That gives me confidence in selling that product, because when Storyline has a free version, luckily, so I signed up for it and I played around with it. It's super intuitive. So I am not saying this because I'm with Storylane, but this one is because when I was job searching, I obviously tried it out. So it was super intuitive, and I could build a demo and I could practically learn it in an hour or so. So that was something that I really liked. Okay, this product, the UI, the UX, and the experience was really good for me. And I had this clear set of things in mind. Okay, I don't want to join a well structured sales team like in a MNC. I want to join an early stage sales team, because I want to learn how the outbound motion is actually built from the scratch. So I wanted to learn that. That goal was on the back of my mind. So this is the main goal. And the next one is, who's your target ICP? What kind of people that will be targeting to? So they'll be like marketing folks, sales folks, or engineering folks. So you will know that whether they are active on LinkedIn or not. You will know what kind of channel they'll use. So if you are a person who's not good at cold calling, and if that your ICP isn't available on LinkedIn, and they are for some reason not reachable through emails as well, so you might have to cold call them. And if cold call is not your strongest suite, then you might need to rethink whether that's the right company that you want to get into. So, and which region you are going to tap into. So I personally believe a lot in health first, job second, because I don't want to go into night shifts. So I was very picky about the ANZ region and UK region, or even 9 to 5, but not for night shifts. So, and I wanted to speak to the person who will actually be directly managing me. So I'll be honestly sharing my opinion. So in the throughout the interview process, I will be completely myself and share, okay, this is how I do. So this is how I work. So I obviously they'll give some feedback on, okay, this is not how we work, or maybe some kind of expressions that I could gauge that this person is not actually aligned with what I feel or what I believe in. So that is also an important thing. And I wanted a complete remote setup because I'm based out in Chennai, and I didn't want to relocate. So that is also I had a filter in mind. and will I be allowed to work independently and experiment with things or not. Because if you are joining a well mature sales team, you will have everything in place. When you go into a company, you will have like you do training, you do product training, and then you go through this ramp period, and you'll have this set of emails that is already being built for you. All you have to do is just call up and start sending emails. That kind of process will already be set for you by the existing sales team. But I wanted to know whether I'll be willing to experiment things where I can set the process myself, not follow the process that is already being made. So that is one thing that I had in my mind. And the last one is, who is the actual person that I'll be working closely with on a daily basis, and what's their work ethic, and all these kinds of things which I could gauge throughout in the interview process. Some things I could learn only from the interview, but the main things are the target ICP, the TAM, which region, and whether it's remote, whether it's early stage sales team or not, well structured sales team, and whether allowed to work independently, experiment with things, how large is their company, and how good is their product, is the main filters that everyone needs to have in their mind before actually applying to these companies. And throughout the interview process, you keep gauging whether you are actually aligned with the company. Because if you feel like, hey, right now I just need a job, man, I just don't want to get into it, it's fine whomever I work with. So if you have that kind of mindset, I feel like they need to again rethink that they okay whether they chose the right job or not, and they might have to again do the job search all over again. So it's better to filter out it properly in the beginning itself, so that you can stick with them for quite some time and then learn things you want. You know, otherwise you have to keep doing the job search again and again.
Yep.
So
Wow. Okay. This is really detailed and comprehensive, and I 100% I agree with you. I think that obviously these are your criteria, right? Maybe somebody would prefer a smaller tent, right? Because they can then do personalized outreach and whatever. Maybe somebody prefers working nights and whatever. But I think you kind of covered 95%, like almost everything that somebody needs to take into consideration when looking for a job. And this is just perfect. But two things really stood out for me as you were talking. One is you actually had all of these criteria, um, like set out, which is like, how did you even know to set those criteria up front? Like, did somebody work with you, or did you kind of come up with them on your own? And then the second thing is, and this isn't a question, you were confident enough to be ready to say no, and you were kind of gauging the opportunity as you were going through the opportunity and kind of qualifying yourself in or out, or rather qualifying the opportunity out, which again I think is a good indicator of a good salesperson. But that's a lot of maturity, like sales maturity, from a person who isn't necessarily coming with a 10 years of sales experience. So I'm just curious, were you working with somebody through that whole process? Was somebody kind of mentoring you? Was this all on your own?
So this one, the filters, I made it myself. But
Uh-huh.
how I learned to filter out this process, that goes back to the last work experience that I had. I was working with Shifu Ventures, was working closely with the two founders who are aiming to build a B2B SaaS venture studio. So I was working with the person named Pratik Sethi. He's an amazing person. He knows about SaaS sales in and out. So I work closely with him on a day-to-day basis. He used to share so much about how companies work, how sales actually work, how this pray and pray thing is actually hurting companies, and all these things. He kept on feeding information, and I could learn so much. And in when I was working in Shifu, we had constant interaction with the founders. So all we were doing is, that was a super early stage. So we were trying to figure out what kind of services as a venture studio that we need to give to the founders. So we were constantly talking with the founders, so they were giving me all this information, so I knew what the kind of SaaS companies, how SaaS companies operate, what kind of things that founders have in their mind. So these kind of maturity, it passes to the Shifu Ventures thing that I worked there. So within that 6 months of working as a founder's office person, along with these two great minds, actually gave me a lot of knowledge. And coming back to the process of filtering out that you were asking me, so these filters I had in my mind. And then I had it in my mind already because of the learnings that I got. And the second thing that actually helped me with this is because I was part of a lot of communities.
Mm.
Communities is this underrated way of actually getting to know what how the company actually is. There's a lot of companies, Rev Genius, SAS Alliance, and this is I one community actually stood out to me, which is Sales 101, which I was part of. And there was a lot of people from many companies in India, so they were actually transparently sharing how their experiences, how their processes. So I kept on knowing, and people were so willing to share their process. Like, okay, so this is something that's going on in my company. So I could immediately filter out, okay, this is not something that I want to do. Okay, this is not something that this is something that I want to. This is interesting. So the amount of the empathy and the kindness that people showed, from the communities is actually has been really really amazing. That was also biggest an advantage that I had when it comes to the job search process. And there were a lot of people who were actually willing to help me in the job search process. Hey, you want an introduction over there, so I can help you with that. If you want a referral over there, I can help you with that. So those kinds of things were actually being done by these communities, especially the sales 101. So
I
that
see.
I took advantage of that. But the filters, that's something that learning goes back to the chief of ventures.
Kudos to the crew over there because they obviously did a great job. Or sorry, I mean on the other hand, you did a great job actually like sucking in all of that information and learning all of that really fast. You mentioned you were there like half a year, so it seems like you picked up on a lot of things really fast because like I said, like this is like your analysis and the criteria that you set for your next job, that's just picture perfect of what a salesperson that is very confident in themselves, you know, creates and does. And so that was really cool. And another thing that was really cool that you did is how you actually landed the job at Storylane, meaning you did the task of creating that initial, whatever you want to call it, outbound motion, GTM motion, right? I'm curious about that. And before you get into it, if you can give us a quick intro into Storylane. So what's the product, what's the ICP and the market that you're going after?
So Storylane is all about making software buying easier. That's the mission that we are working towards to.
Uh-huh.
So Storylane helps you build an interactive demo of your product that you can put it on your websites, G2, and all the review platforms, so that your prospects actually go through your product before they book a call. Because nowadays people are getting their information so much, and then like prospects are actually frustrated. Like, hey, if you want to see my product, you have to book a call, contact sales. So those kinds of frictions we are trying to remove those friction and make the buying easier and make it a buyer first process is all what you're trying to achieve at Storylane. And what the ICP that we are targeting is the marketing, growth marketing and demand generation persona, and in the sales, and as well as the pre-sales people. So these are the three ICPs that we are targeting to, and we are majorly selling in the US region.
Got it. And what is the size of the company that the companies that you're going after? Because I can see this being, and like, please correct me if I'm wrong, but more like earlier stage than later stage is what I feel like is at least easier to sell. But just because bigger teams already have resources to create something like this already, not necessarily have to rely on an external vendor. But maybe I'm wrong. What is your like? What's the size of your ICP usually?
So the ICP ranges from companies, 10 people company to 1,000 and 1,000 plus companies as well. It depends upon the use case. For the people who are, super early stage, they might want to show their product because the credibility that they can have is their product. Because they might not have a lot of reviews, they might not have a lot of credible customers, but their product is their biggest selling point. So they might want to show off their product in their website. So that is the biggest use case when it comes to the early stage company. When it comes to bigger companies, we also have customers like Microsoft. So why on earth companies like Microsoft would use
Yeah.
interactive demos? That is something they are using it for the sales and marketing use case, like send it as a demo leave behinds, and they are using it to learn the Microsoft product. So whenever there is a new feature release, they'll be using that feature release and create a demo of that and then send it across to all the Microsoft employees so that they can learn about that feature, so that it makes learning about the product much easier. So the use cases really really varies across the companies, but it can be sold to any companies of any size, but it just depends. So we have a startup plan and everything, so we can cater to anything that ranges from zero to thousand plus as well. Yeah.
Understood. All right, cool. I get it. What was your approach to that task? I'm super curious because I love those tasks, especially because you were the founding SDR. So basically, the first person coming in who's going to be doing outbound. It was all on you. So how did you approach? I mean, obviously, we don't have to go through the whole thing. I'm just curious. What was that experience like? Like, how were you thinking about it, and what did you create in order to land that opportunity?
So this one, when I came in, the outbound process was not actually mature. We didn't have much to follow up on, maybe like assets or like maybe repeatable process that I can replicate right here in Storylane. So we started thinking, so what's the best way to start? We have to start somewhere. So instead of overthinking it, let's just start with someone who's actually showing interest. So we
Mm,
had website traffic of 50,000 per month. That comes from like 50,000 per month. So there's a lot of people who are visiting our websites G2. So let's just start there. So that's what our thought process were, and we started reaching out to these people who had some intent. So instead of doing complete cold outbound, let's just leverage the people who are actually showing some kind of interest. So that is a good starting point, and then trying to build a system around it. How you can automate some parts which is very manual, and how you can personalize it and make it more for them kind of thing. So we are trying to build a system around it. So right now we are focusing on the people who are visiting the websites and the G2. That actually gives us a huge amount of accounts to work on. So and we are trying to build a system around it using Smartly, Clay, and all these different tools. We are experimenting with it. Everything, like every week is a
nice.
new experiment. Yesterday started using Clay, and then I don't know what we are going to use like next week. So there's a lot of learning that comes with it, but I'm really enjoying it because what we are doing it right now might not be what we are doing after Q2. So
That's cool. Okay, understood. It sounds like you're more relying on inbound signals, or rather on signals, and like trying to convert inbound more than you are going after outbound. I 100% wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that's like it's just low hanging fruit, and you're just trying to pick up on that, and that's really cool. I am curious how you're using Play and Smart Lead, and also are you using any of these the tools that are growing more popular of like recognizing the visitors on your website, like RB2B or a few others. Are you using something like that as well?
yeah, yeah, we are using our B2B as well. So it pushes the notification to our Slack. So whenever someone is reaching out, visiting our website in the high intent pages alone, not on
Right.
every other page, because there are a lot of traffic in the blog pages and the informational pages, and we don't want to target on those. There's a high intent page like pricing page and customer showcase page, which is actually super high intent. And so someone is visiting it, and this notification comes in. I straight away connect with them and then started reaching out like hey, I just saw that you are on the website and super curious what piqued your interest, so just wanted to learn about what you are looking at, so something of that sort. So you reach out
Yeah.
to them. So that we are using our B2B for that. And for in respect to the question that you asked, smart lead and clay, we are using clay to we are using another tool named factors AI, which helps us identify the accounts that are actually visiting the website and G2. So
Okay.
those accounts, Clay uses it and identifies the exact ICP within that account and personalize it and use smart leads to reach out to the prospects who are doing it. So when it
Got it.
comes to these people who are visiting these two channels, the timing actually really matters.
Mm.
So you need to be really, really timely on reaching out to those because they might actually be in the evaluation stage or they might actually be looking out. So it's very, very important to reach out to them on time and send them an email. So these kinds of system will help us to reach out to them on a timely basis.
Got it. Cool. Okay, can you repeat just, or maybe write it on LinkedIn, whatever, the name of the tool that you just mentioned that understands your traffic on the account basis, just so I can tag it in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely. That's factors.ai. I can
Fact
send it.
like factors.
Yeah, factors.ai.
All right, all right. I think I know what that is. Okay, cool. Awesome. So, okay, it's a pretty sophisticated. Sorry for that about this. It's a pretty sophisticated tech stack. I like it. It doesn't sound like you're actively cold calling. Is that by design, or am I just missing something?
So yeah, we have another person who's mainly focusing on the cold calling part. We have a person named Dimlu, who's working out of the US. So he'll be reaching out to these people who are showing super high intent. So he'll be reaching out to them through cold calls. I mainly
Got it.
handle the emails and the LinkedIn part right now. So we are trying to
Got it.
expand that slowly. So since it's a super early stage, we want to focus on the things that we are right now building out, and then once we have things figured out, then you can go on and mature like a normal MNC company. Like you work on an account, use multi-channel outreach to reach
Yeah.
to the right ICP. So it all depends on the stage that the company is actually in.
Okay. Cool. That's pretty awesome. How do you use G2 traffic? Like, how does that work? Does G2 actually, because I've never used it, does G2 actually tell you, hey, this is the exact person who visited your page or like looked at reviews or something like that? Or do you have to kind of hack it and figure out who's landing on your G2 profile?
So the factors here, it will help you to find the account who is actually visiting the G2 high
Uh huh.
intent pages, because in
Okay.
G2 itself there is a lot of pages that prospects visit. So let's say that they are comparing your product versus your competitor product. So that's a super high intent page. So let's just say that they are just visited your main landing page on G2. That might or might not be a high intent one, but if they're comparing you to your competitor, that's a super high intent one. So
Yeah.
you might want to reach out to that account. So you might not know who is actually evaluating you, or like who's visiting your G2, but what the account is, the account name. So you can use Clay, and you can manually reach out to them on LinkedIn as well. So you can do that. But because G2 is it's a very very important intent signal that people has to focus on, because a lot of time people are evaluating, the evaluation process starts in the review sites, right? They want to check out how their product is, what's the reviews. So it's a very important channel to look out for.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. And that's something that I actually coach my SDRs as well, which is like if you're figuring out a new ICP or new whatever, one of the best places to look at is your competitors' like G2 reviews and stuff like that, where you can find both the value proposition as well as like what's wrong with it, because people just leave reviews and you can kind of capitalize on that. That's so cool. What happens when you book a meeting? So, you as an SDR, are you in charge of qualifying the lead itself, like having that initial sales call, qualification call, or is it passed on to, I don't know, your founder or whoever is taking those calls?
So usually, whenever I reach out to these prospects who has some high intent, so they are usually on the evaluation process. They are ready to get on a call.
Uh huh.
So we know that they are in the evaluation process. So that actually it passes on straight to the AE. And if they do have some questions, and I do some kind of discovery through the emails and LinkedIn through a conversation, and try to understand what stage they are actually in and all these things. So that is a brings in two buckets. So usually it goes straight to the AE, but sometimes I need to have a conversation with the prospects to understand whether it's actually necessary for them to have a call, because it's not okay to ask a prospect to get on a call if they are not in the stage of buying. So
Yep.
it saves time for both the parties.
Exactly. Cool. So, you you very intentionally landed this opportunity. Is it everything that you had hoped for? Is it better? Are you striving for something more? Like what's in the pipeline for you career wise?
So the Storylane opportunity is something that I know orchestrated or something. Like I've been dreaming of like working in a super early outbound motion. I've been thinking of it, right, from previous year end, previous year end or some no previous year early. So I knew that I had to work in this kind of environment where I can work closely with the founders. I can work on building out the process. I am a builder at heart, so I'm not a follower. So I want to be the person who's a builder. So I don't want to follow process very blindly, you know that is set by someone. I want to create a repeatable process, like winning process by myself, not just follow someone else's
Yeah.
success or repeatable process. So I knew that I wanted this. So I'm super glad that I landed at Storylane. It's everything that I wanted right now. And in terms of the pipeline that I'm expecting, I am not aiming for, oh, okay, I'm an SDR right now, I want to go for an AE role. So that is not the thing that I'm having in my mind. The main thing is, okay, right now I'm in the SDR job. I have to learn everything that there is about prospecting,
Mm.
like creative ways, whether you need to build a system, whether it's traditional outreach or the modern outreach, or anything that comes with you, take anything, I should know about it. So
Yeah.
that learning goal is the most important thing when you are in super early in your career. The learning is what going to make you stand out. So the learning is what is going to make people take a shot at you.
Yeah.
So the learning goal is something that I always have in my mind. Okay, this year I have this learning goal of completing all these things, learning all these things by end of year. Next year I should be an expert in this. After that next year I should have this kind of goal, the learning this goal. So that learning goal will automatically tie back to the responsibilities. If I have to learn this, then I should be this person. If I want to learn this, then I should be this AE or CSM. So it goes back to that, because the learning is something that is going to fuel you to daily motivate and work on a daily basis. The role
Nice.
wouldn't be. If you focus on the AE role, so someday you might not want, okay, I don't want to get on a call with a customer, just close the deal. So I might get bored with it. But if I have the motivation to learn, okay, what is there to learn in the second part of the deal cycle? So if I had this hunger to learn what is there in it, everything, then I will get up every day and work on it like with all my heart, and then try to learn to the best possible way. So
Yeah.
I always believe in it.
Okay. Well, that's really something to kind of, you know, I feel inspired by what you just said. I think that kind of mindset is what really makes you stand out in comparison to a lot of other SDRs that I get a chance to chat with. I mean, everything that you are doing really makes you stand out because the way that you approach opportunities, the way you hunt for them, you actually remind me of a close friend of mine. She's in a very similar way oriented to like, this is what I want, this is how I'm gonna get it, and like, there's no doubt in her mind about like, is that gonna happen? It's just a matter of how exactly it's going to happen, but like you know, and I think you have that same trait, which is really really cool. Okay, so one weird question: what is the thing that you dislike about being an SDR?
Okay, never thought about it. Okay, the
Is
dislike.
there anything?
Okay, the dislike part might be uh, people yelling at you, because even though we are doing something, something that's not really appreciated. So if I'm cold calling you, Stefan, like out of the blue, you might not like it. You might be under pressure. You might not like it. So you might, naturally sometimes we give in to the emotion we want to yell it. But I'm a strong believer as a person that no matter what you are going through, no matter what the emotion that you have, you don't have the right to yell at other person. So you need to be really, it's very thoughtful to be kind to every person, because everybody's doing their job. Even if it's not the job, they just reached out to you, just politely say no. So that kind of
Yeah,
thing that everybody needs to have it. So I don't really like people justifying, yelling at SDR. So I don't think that's okay. Okay, man, I know I've interrupted your work, but it's not okay to yell at someone. So that's not a
yeah.
very cool thing.
I agree with you, although it kind of comes with the territory. But I know where you're coming from. We've all had it, and it's just an unpleasant moment to kind of be in. But yeah, I understand that. All right, so let's move on to the rapid fire questions part. Um, I'm just gonna ask you a few rapid fire questions that you can just kind of shoot out with answers, and then we can start wrapping up. Cool.
Sure,
All right.
go ahead.
All right. Okay. So, what in your mind is the best SDR learning resource?
Podcast, the
Podcast.
people who SDRs who are sharing their experience, like how we are doing right now. Your podcast and 30 Minutes to President Club, who are actually sharing their strategies and how they are doing things, is the best resource that you can have. So I wouldn't recommend going to any course and anything. So that is not going to work out. People actually doing their job and sharing their learning is something that you need to. implement, have a playlist. Okay, if you are struggling with LinkedIn, go and have make a playlist on YouTube or anywhere else, Spotify, and then keep a playlist LinkedIn, how to reach out in LinkedIn, and make a full playlist and keep hearing it on a day-to-day basis. So I wouldn't recommend any specific podcast as say, but obviously yours is one such I really admire. That's why I reached out to you. So, but you have kind of playlist and listen to those is what I would recommend.
All right, that's a very good answer. Okay, so in your mind, what is the best skill an SDR can have?
Empathy.
That's
Yeah.
a good one. What is your, let's say, favorite SDR creator or sales creator that you follow?
Josh Brown, Jen Allen, Alexin, Jason Bay, and okay, I'm not able to recollect anyone
Yep.
right now because I've been when I started my sales job, I rigorously searched for everyone that is creating content on sales. So I picked out everyone and started following every one of them. So it's very hard to pick out right now, but I'm learning a lot through my LinkedIn feed. So when I realized the power of LinkedIn through after landing my
Yep.
first sales job, I knew that LinkedIn is something that I need to constantly hang out. So I need to tweak my LinkedIn feed so that it always gives me information whenever I open it. So these creators should always be on my feed. So
Yep.
that is also a very important thing. If you are scrolling Instagram, shift it to LinkedIn.
Yeah, I know. I remember for me, that was back in 20, I think 2020, 2020, 2021, something like that. I literally just, LinkedIn was the only social network I was actually logging into and scrolling and reading. And literally, my feed was just sales folks teaching about sales. There wasn't as much noise back then as it is as there is now. There's so many people. I mean, when I say noise, that's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just there are so many people who are trying to kind of position themselves as experts, as sales coaches, and so there's a lot of content to consume. But definitely, like you can't really make a mistake of like if you go to LinkedIn and you try to find people who know shit, you're gonna find them. That's so cool. What
That's the
is
way to
your
go about it.
Exactly, exactly. What would you say is your preferred outbound sales channel? So email, LinkedIn, cold
Cold
calling.
email plus LinkedIn. Cold email plus LinkedIn because some people might resist for cold call, although it might be the best channel, like everyone else is saying. But email is always the preferred channel. Even one survey that I read saying that people always prefer reaching out through email as the first channel that they want to be contacted on. So when you send out an email, so you can connect them on LinkedIn. So these two channel combined and with cold call as a final touch could be the best strategy.
Got it. Okay, cool. And one final question. So, what is your favorite call to action? Like the call to action that you default to when you're writing your emails or LinkedIn DMs?
Interested to learn more.
There we go. There's Josh Brown again.
I know, right? Sometimes I just forget like where I read what I know.
Same. I honestly, I don't even know. I've consumed so much content from so many
Yeah,
people. I don't even know who I learned it from, and I kind of it's already a part of me that I just start preaching it, and I probably do some to mention
sometimes I
some
feel
names.
guilty. Yeah, sometimes I
Yeah,
feel guilty.
exactly.
Okay, I'm not giving credit for
Yeah,
the people who
exactly.
are actually teaching me. Okay, where did I actually learn it? And there goes so much of energy thinking who actually gave me that information. Sometimes, okay, that's fine. Let's just share whatever that we know so that it might help someone like it did for
Exactly.
me.
Exactly. All right. All right. Cool. So, for the end, what would you say? Like, what is a message that you would like the audience to take away from this conversation and from you as an SDR?
So the takeaway I would say is if you're on the job hunt, if you're on the SDR job, so I would say always do your homework. If there is any problem that's being thrown at you, do your due research and make sure that you try to figure out everything by yourself and come up with good set of questions. If I'm reaching out to you, Stefan, for a help, so everybody needs help. So if reaching out to you, make the person's life easier by, okay, hey Stefan, you gave me this thing, I tried to figure this out by myself, I tried this. and I couldn't figure out. I got stuck into this particular step. Can you help me with this? So it's going to help you so much on your job search as well, because hey, I just need a job, do you know any openings? No. Big no no. Okay, people don't have time for that. Be very
Yeah.
specific at your ask. Be very very specific at your ask. If Stefan is someone who knows everything about podcast, you need to reach out to him with, hey, I'm going to start a podcast on my own. Which this tool that you are using right now, what camera you are using right now, ask with that specific kind of question. Reach out to that particular person with that particular skill, with a specific question, and make it easier for the other person to help you. That's the best takeaway that I could give for anyone, because people are not willing to do their homework. People don't want to figure it out themselves. Sometimes they just want to, you know, feed it to them, so they don't want to
Yeah.
do the work. So that is not the way to go about it. People are really kind enough to lend their hand, but you need to make it easier for them to help you.
This goes back to, I love your answer. This goes back to the way that you landed your every single one of your roles, and how you ended up with this podcast, which is the way that you reach out to people isn't like, hey, I want to be on your podcast. Hey, I'm applying to your open role. But you were really following up, DMing people, cold calling them, um, just being there, being consistent, and being relentless in what you want, and then you got it. And if more people would do things that way, I think we would have a lot more successful people, a lot more success as SDRs as well. And so I think the way you do things is extremely inspiring. So, Akshaya, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you. Where can people find you?
So people, best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. I'm always active on LinkedIn. Even on weekends, I have this phobia of always scrolling on LinkedIn right now, which I can't really seem to stop. Okay, I'm always available on LinkedIn. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on that.
That's really awesome. All right. Akshaya, I really appreciate you for coming on, for sharing your story and your experience and your expertise. I know that people in the audience are gonna enjoy what you shared with them. And I appreciate you for being persistent with me as well, and getting on the podcast, because this is one of the better episodes that I've done.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for having me. Thanks so much for the opportunity as well. I hope this helps the larger audience and people in your community as well. I hope people find value. And that's it from my side.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you. All right. That's a wrap.